precise about this, because precision is the only thing I have left. I am not someone who believes in things. I want to say that clearly at the start, before any of this gets away from me. I have never believed in things that could not be explained by patience and a second look. I was an engineer before I was a bridge inspector, and before that, I was the kind of child who took clocks apart to see where the sound went. The sound went nowhere interesting. It went into gears. I put the clock back together and it still worked. And I felt, at 8 years old, deeply satisfied by that outcome. That is the kind of person I am. That is the kind of person I was for a long time before the measurements started not adding up. I should explain what I do, because it matters. To understanding why I couldn't let it go, a bridge inspection office processes load data. That's the simplified version. The fuller version is that we process structural survey reports, cycle them through federal compliance protocols, cross-reference them with previous assessment records, flag anomalies, route flags to field teams, receive field team confirmations, archive the confirmed reports, and generate forward assessment schedules for the following quarter. I am the one who does the archiving. My official title is Records and Compliance Technician, Grade 3. I've been Grade 3 for 11 years. There is a Grade 4. I have never applied for it. I like the archive. The archive is in the basement of a building that used to be a municipal water authority office. The building smells even now faintly of something mineral and old, not unpleasant, just present. The fluorescent lights in my section of the basement have always had a particular quality to them, a very slight vibration at the edge of perception, the kind of thing you only notice in the third or fourth hour of a quiet evening when you haven't spoken to another person in some time. I work evenings, 6 to 2 in the morning, Tuesday through Saturday. The building is largely empty by 7. By 8, I am alone in it. I began noticing the weight measurements 14 months ago. The reports come to me in batches. Field inspectors complete them on standardized federal forms, Form BR7 for primary structural surveys, BR14 for follow-up assessments, and submit them through a central routing system that timestamps them, tags them with the relevant bridge ID and inspection district, and deposits them in a shared folder that I access from my workstation. My job is to review them for completeness, cross-reference the measurements against the previous assessment on file, note any flagged variances, print 2 physical copies of each completed report, sign the archival copy, file it, and route the review copy upstairs for the quarterly compliance officer's review. It is very quiet work. I like very quiet work. I have always liked very quiet work. The first time I noticed it, I genuinely thought it was a data entry error. The report was for Bridge 7 Meridian, which is a small 2-lane overpass in the Northern District, concrete, construction built in 1961, unremarkable in every measurable sense. The inspector on file was a man named Gareth Fossey, who I've never met but whose handwriting I know extremely well, because he submits 3 or 4 reports a month and his handwriting is very consistent, squared capitals, very even pressure. The 7s always crossed in the European style. The report was complete. All sections filled. Measurements taken, recorded, compared, variance noted as within acceptable range, structural grade assessed, maintenance recommendations filed, standard, routine, exactly as it should be. At the bottom of the report, below the inspector's signature, and above the archival seal line, in a section that, on a standard BR7 form, is simply blank, a 1/4 inch of white space before the edge of the page, there was a number, 614 lbs. There was no label, no field heading, no unit qualifier. Beyond the abbreviation, no indication of what was being measured, or when, or by whom. It was just there, in the same squared capitals as the rest of Gareth Fossey's handwriting, as if it belonged, as if it had always been there, as if I had simply been filing reports wrong for 11 years by not understanding what that blank space was for. I checked the previous BR7 for Bridge 7 Meridian. The bottom of the form was blank, as it had always been. I pulled 5 other reports from the current batch, all blank at the bottom. I called the number a data entry error, noted it in the variance log, filed the report, and went home. The following week, 3 reports came through from 3 different inspectors in 2 different districts. Bridge 12 Callaway, a 1974 steel girder structure, inspector on file named Priya Santosh. Bridge 3 Hartwell, a 1988 composite span, inspector on file named D. Weiss, whose first name I've never confirmed. And Bridge 44 Ostergaard, which is a pedestrian footbridge over a drainage canal, built in 2003, the youngest structure in our district's inventory, inspector on file named whoever was on rotation that week, because Bridge 44 Ostergaard is considered low priority and the assignment rotates. All 3 reports were complete. All 3 were signed. All 3 had a number in the blank space at the bottom. Priya Santosh's report, 4,214 lbs. D. Weiss's report, 4,114 lbs. The rotation inspector's report, 4,014 lb. I sat with that for a long time. I remember the fluorescent light above my desk was in a particularly communicative mood that night. A low, almost melodic hum, not unpleasant, just present. The ventilation system was running. The building was empty. It was 11:40 on day, a Wednesday evening, and I was sitting in a basement surrounded by 11 years of archived bridge reports, looking at the same number written in 3 different people's handwriting. I am precise about things. I did not panic. I opened a new document and I typed the number, the date, and the 3 bridge IDs. I saved the document in a personal folder. I cross-referenced all 3 reports against their previous assessments. I noted the number in the variance log for all 3, flagged them as unusual, and sent a brief internal message to my supervisor, a woman named Linda Marsh, who works mornings and with whom I have never had a conversation longer than 4 minutes, asking whether there had been any recent update to the BR7 or BR14 forms that I had not been notified about. Linda responded the next morning while I was asleep. Her message was 4 words long, not aware of any. I want to pause here and say something about weight, because it will matter. A bridge is, in its simplest engineering sense, a machine for bearing weight. Everything about a bridge, its material, composition, its span geometry, its anchor systems, its maintenance schedule, its entire reason for existing, comes down to what it can hold and for how long. When we talk about bridge failure, we are almost always talking about weight. Unexpected weight, unequally distributed weight, weight applied to structures already weakened by time or weather or institutional neglect. The I-35W bridge in Minneapolis failed in 2007. The weight of construction equipment on one end, combined with corrosion the inspectors had flagged and no one had addressed, combined with a gusset plate that had been under-designed from the beginning. 13 people died. Weight, I think about weight a lot. It is my job to think about weight. 4,614 pounds is approximately 2 tons. It is approximately the weight of a loaded pickup truck or a very small bulldozer, and I did not calculate this until much later. Until I was very much further down the path of noticing things, it is approximately within a margin of statistical significance the cumulative weight of 9 to 12 average adult human bodies. I did not know that yet, the first night. I want to be very clear about when I knew things. By the end of the 3rd month, 41 reports had come through containing the number. The reports came from 9 different inspectors, 3 different districts, 7 different structure types, ranging from the pedestrian footbridge to a major interstate overpass that handles an average of 60,000 vehicles per day. The number was always the same. It was always in the blank space at the bottom of the form. It was always written in the handwriting of the submitting inspector, not added later, not stamped or printed, written in the same ink as the rest of the report, as if the inspector had simply looked at the bridge, completed their assessment, and then naturally, without hesitation, without being asked, written 4,614 LEBs in a space that no form in our federal filing system designated for anything at all. I had sent 3 more messages to Linda Marsh by then, each one slightly more detailed than the last. The first asked about form revisions. The second attached a compiled list of the affected reports. The third, and I chose my words carefully for the third, noted that the measurement appeared in reports from inspectors who, to the best of my knowledge, did not know each other and worked entirely separate routes. Linda's responses had been in order: 4 words, 7 words, and then nothing. The nothing was the most informative response. I looked at the empty reply field in my inbox for a long time after that, and then I went back to the archive, and I kept working. I want to be clear that I considered stopping. I considered noting the anomaly in the variance log, filing the reports, and deciding that whatever it was above my grade 3 clearance level and someone upstairs would deal with it. That is probably what I should have done. That is probably what a person who was going to be fine would have done. But I am the child who took the clock apart. I am the person who likes the archive. I am, fundamentally and by nature, someone who believes that if you pull enough records, the shape of the thing will eventually become visible. So I pulled records. The archive goes back to 1983. That is when this district's inspection office was formally established, when the Federal Bridge Inspection Program reached our region and began requiring standardized quarterly filings. Before 1983, inspection records exist in a patchwork of county assessments and state DOT files that are stored in a separate section of the basement, in a row of metal shelving units that are not part of my official archival domain, but which have never been locked. I spent 3 evenings in November going through those older files. I told myself I was performing a routine background check on the district inventory, which was not entirely untrue. It was just not the whole reason. The oldest records are typed on paper so thin it has gone almost translucent at the edges, the letters pressed deep by the keys of machines that no longer exist. The forms are different, pre-federal standardization. Each county used its own template, but the essential data is the same. Bridge identification, date, inspector name, measurements, structural assessment, recommendations. On the 47th document I pulled, a county assessment form for what was then called the Reverton Crossing, now Bridge 7 Meridian, the very first bridge where I noticed the number. I found it at the bottom of the form, in the blank space, in the typewritten numerals of whatever machine had processed this report in October of 1971 for 614 lbs. It had no heading then either, no label, no explanation. Just the number, sitting below the inspector's signature in the quiet way that numbers sit when they belong there, when they have always belonged there, when whatever they are measuring has not stopped being measured. I took a photograph of the document with my phone. I took several photographs. I went back to my desk and I sat for a while in the fluorescent hum, and I thought about what it means for a number to persist, unchanged across 53 years and 9 different filing systems, and somewhere between 40 and 80 different individual human beings writing it down without, apparently, ever explaining to anyone else why. I thought about the water authority smell of the building. I thought about Gareth Fossey's crossed sevens. I thought about the bridge in Minneapolis. Then I went home. I did not sleep well. I have not slept well in a while. There is a moment in structural failure analysis. I learned this when I was studying, long before the inspection office, when I was still in school and still believed that knowing the mechanism of a thing was always useful. There is a moment they call silent propagation. It describes the phase of structural deterioration that occurs before any visible sign of damage appears. The bridge looks fine. The bridge tests within acceptable parameters. The bridge is, by every available metric, performing its function. But beneath the surface, at the level of the material itself, at the level of molecular stress and microscopic fracture, something is moving. Something has been moving for years. The damage is real. It has been real for a long time. The reason it hasn't been detected isn't because it isn't there. It's because no one has been looking at the right layer. I think about silent propagation a lot now. In December, I found the incident reports. They were not in the main archive. They were not in the pre-1983 county files. They were in a third section of the basement that I had always understood to be decommissioned storage, a room behind the county files, accessible through a door that was not locked because it was not a door anyone had thought to lock, because it led to a room that was not on any floor plan I had access to, a room that the building seemed to have simply grown around over the years, the way that institutional buildings do, accumulating space. Without accounting for it, the room smelled different from the rest of the basement, not mineral, older than mineral. The kind of smell that comes from paper that has been sealed away from the movement of air for a very long time. There were 6 filing cabinets. 4 of them were empty. 2 of them were not. I am going to be careful here about what I say and how. I say it because I have thought about this part many times since December, and I want to be accurate. And being accurate requires acknowledging the limits of what I could confirm from the documents alone versus what I inferred versus what I felt, which are 3 different categories of knowing, and I do not want to mix them. What I can confirm, the documents in those 2 filing cabinets were incident reports. They were internal documents, not filed with any federal or state oversight body. I have since checked carefully, and these reports do not appear in any external database. They covered 31 separate incidents across the district's bridge, inventory spanning from 1967 to 2019. The incidents were varied in their surface nature: structural collapses, vehicle accidents, maintenance accidents, 2 suicides, 1 drowning in a canal below a low bridge, several incidents I could not fully categorize from the available information. The reports were written in the flat, procedural language of institutional documentation, the language that uses passive voice the way a building uses load-bearing walls, to distribute the weight of what is being described so evenly that no single sentence has to hold too much. What I can confirm from the measurements, each incident report contained either in the body of the document or appended as a supplementary data sheet, a weight figure. The weight figure was always described as total recovered mass at site of incident. In 11 of the 31 reports, the total recovered mass was listed as 4,614 lbs. In the remaining 20, the figures varied. I calculated the average of all 31 figures. The average was 4,614 lbs. I sat on the floor of that room for a long time. The light I'd brought with me, a small LED flashlight from the emergency kit by the basement stairs, was very white and very still, and the room around it was very dark, and the smell of the old paper was very present, and I sat on the floor and I thought about what I was looking at. The weight at the bottom of every bridge inspection report, the weight that has been appearing in this district's records since at least 1971, the weight that 9 inspectors across 2 generations have written in the blank space at the bottom of standardized federal forms without anyone ever explaining why, without it ever appearing in any form field, without it ever being flagged by any compliance review. That weight is the average weight of everyone who has died on a bridge in this district since we started keeping records of such things. That is what I believe. I want to be precise about that. It is what I believe, not what I can prove. What I can prove is the number and its persistence. The interpretation is mine. But I have been doing this work for 11 years, and I have learned that when a number appears in the same place in the same context across 5 decades without anyone explaining it, the number is not accidental. Numbers in official documents are never accidental. Someone put it there first, and then everyone else somehow kept putting it there, because it belonged there, because it had always belonged there, because the bridge inspection reports of this district have always been, without anyone saying so, without anyone needing to say so, a record of 2 things simultaneously: the weight the bridge is designed to hold and the weight it has already taken. I filed a request in January for access to the personnel records of the field inspectors who had submitted the 41 reports. I did not know what I was looking for exactly. I wanted to know if there was a training document somewhere, a regional onboarding protocol, something that explained when and why inspectors learned to write the number. I thought, and this was still at that point the part of my thinking that was trying to find a reasonable explanation. I thought perhaps it was an institutional practice specific to this district, something passed down informally through the inspection teams the way professional habits are often passed down, never written in any manual because it had never needed to be written, because everyone who was supposed to know already knew. The personnel office responded 6 weeks later. The response was a single paragraph. It said that personnel records for field inspection staff were maintained by the regional DOT office and were not available through internal request channels. It included a phone number for the regional office. I called the phone number. I was on hold for 38 minutes. The line disconnected. I called back. The number was out of service. I called Linda Marsh directly, not a message, an actual phone call, in the morning before I came in for the evening shift, which was unusual enough that she answered on the second ring, and there was a brief, loaded pause before she said hello that told me she recognized my name on the screen and had been waiting for me to do something like this. I told her about the number. I told her all of it. The 41 reports, the 1971 county assessment, the room behind the county files, the incident reports, the average. I tried to be very calm and very precise because those are the things I am good at, and because I could hear, even as I was speaking, that my voice was doing something at the edges that I was not fully controlling. Linda was quiet for a moment after I finished. Then she said, "The measurement is part of the filing protocol." I asked her what protocol. She said, "It's a legacy notation from before standardization. Some inspectors still include it." I asked her what it measured. She said, "I'm not the person to ask about that. You'd need to go to the regional office." I said the regional office number was disconnected. She said, "I'll look into it." She has not looked into it. Or if she has not told me. That was 5 months ago. The reports keep coming. The number keeps appearing. I keep filing them. That is what I do. That is the work. Last month, a new report came through for Bridge 7 Meridian. Inspector on file, Gareth Fossey. Handwriting consistent, 7s crossed in the European style, every measurement taken and recorded within acceptable variance, structural grade holding at B-, recommendations for resurfacing the expansion, joints on the north end by the following fiscal year. At the bottom of the form, in the blank space, in Gareth Fossey's very consistent squared capitals, 618 lbs, 4 pounds more than it has ever been. 4 pounds more than the number that has appeared in this district's bridge record since 1971. A change. The first change in the measurement in 11 years of my tenure, in 53 years of available records, in however many years before the records begin. I am the child who took the clock apart. I am someone who believes that if you pull enough records, the shape of the thing becomes visible. The shape is visible now. I understand what the number measures. I understand what the 4 additional pounds mean. Somewhere in this district, on a bridge I have probably filed reports for, something happened recently that the incident report room does not yet contain. Something small. Something that brought the average up by a fraction so slight that it rounds to 4 pounds. I filed the report. I noted the variance. I cross-referenced it with the previous assessment. I printed 2 copies, signed the archival copy, filed it, and routed the review copy upstairs. Then I opened my personal document, the one I started 14 months ago, the one with the date and the bridge IDs and the number. And I added the new figure and the date beside it. The fluorescent light above my desk was humming. The ventilation system was running. It was 11:50 on a Thursday evening. The building was empty. The archive smelled faintly of something mineral and old. The next batch of reports arrives Tuesday. I will be here. I am always here. The bridges are not going anywhere, and neither am I, and the number will be what it will be. And I will write it down because someone has to write it down. And it has always been someone like me who does. Someone alone in a basement with good fluorescent light and 11 years of context and the particular kind of stillness that comes from understanding, finally, that you are not the first person to have noticed, and you will not be the last, and the system does not need you to explain it. It just needs you to keep filing. So I keep filing.